Okay, so disclaimer: I will be using the T word. I mean, you have to. We're talking about someone like Adrian Street here, who, I mean, you can look and see. That was his work. He did whole albums. I'm using the T word, which I'm pretty sure is not a slur or a cuss word. I'm pretty sure it's the C word, which I would not be using. Okay, like when it comes to describing people, a person who dresses as the opposite sex. Okay, so yeah, this is a twofer. We lost, like I just found out about both of these. Apparently, a few days ago, we lost exotic Adrian Street, right? And then today, we lost Wee Herman, and we decided to do a video on both of them, a 2-for-1. And there's a bit of overlap there anyway. So yeah, both these people were rather interesting dudes, way out there, characters that they lived most of their career. So yeah, I'm gonna start with Adrian Street, exotic Adrian Street. So, in case you couldn't tell by the picture here, he's a wrestler, and basically he picked up where the legendary Gorgeous George left off back in the 50s and 60s. Okay, come down in the late 60s, the early 70s, and way into the 80s and beyond. Adrian Street shows up, picks up where Gorgeous George left off, doing the whole flamboyant thing, the whole right. But the difference is, Adrian Street never once said he was gay. He wasn't gay. Like, none of them were. Like, Gorgeous George wasn't gay. Adrian Adonis wasn't gay. Adrian Street, not gay. But the difference is, he never said those words. He never implied that he was or anything. He left it up to you. In fact, that was the line. He would do everything, but he's not going to say it was gay. You can argue, well, it was back then, or maybe he was being respectful. Like, I literally just did it. Was listening to an interview he was doing while I was working on this video, getting the pictures and everything. So, yeah. And I'm glad I did, because I would have got him way wrong. I knew he wasn't gay, but I didn't know he, like, drew the line. Like, you don't really hear that much in wrestling, especially with Vince and everything. Yeah. He would not say it was gay, unlike his counterpart, Adrian Adonis, who outright did come out on a show, and that was all. There was just an episode about it of Dark Side of the Ring. There was a punishment from Vince, and it was the 80s. Oh, you're gay because you're fat and you can't work out. You don't drink. It was stupid. Watch the episode. It's stupid. And both these dudes were legit too, like badasses. Like, yeah, they dressed like this, they acted a certain way, but you didn't want to fuck with them. You didn't. And Adrian Street, my goodness, like when I say he walked so Goldust could run and Sonny Kiss could sprint, like I mean that, like, my goodness. Okay, like, tell me if this sounds familiar. You have a dude whose sexuality is a mystery, and he does all this stuff. Talks about, like, he likes clothes, his makeup, and everything. And the way he's around with other dudes, and you get a certain image, but he won't tell you what. Like, that sound familiar? Like Goldust? Like, yeah. And like, whereas Goldust was very much feeding on fears back in the 90s, Adrian Street was quite literally just living his life, like fully embracing it like Goldust did. Adrian Adonis, on the surface, looked like he fully embraced it, but no, when he clocked out, he took that shit off and was that badass wearing all black shit. Like, this was Adrian Street. Back in that era, you lived that. Like, you had to gimmick, you lived it. And he did. And much like Goldust, he had like a beautiful, beautiful woman by his side who eventually became a thing. And they were up until we lost Adrian Street. Yeah. And like, one thing I like about Adrian Street, like, him in the ring, like, he spoke a certain way, obviously, moved a certain way, skipped around. He threw a punch. My goodness, we was throwing her on the ring. My goodness. And then, like, I like his music more than anything. Like, when I say he had mic skills, man, my goodness. So many wrestlers have tried and failed to get into music. Adrian Street recorded what I'm ready to say is like a fantastic album. And I've been listening to a certain song on that album for years now. Because I found out about it right back when I used to listen to the Jim Cornette podcast. I don't know. But yeah. He said Adrian Street did a song, Sweet Transvestite, parentheses, with a broken nose. And I thought it was a parody of Rocky Horror Picture Show. There are similarities, but it's not a parody. It's very much how he is who he is, but he will fuck you up. Like, check these lyrics out, man. Check these lyrics out here. Here are my favorite lyrics, okay? I'll kiss you or I'll kick you. That's what I like the best. I'm as tough as Marciano and as sexy as Mae West. As cute as Shirley Temple, as fast as Bruce Lee. I could kill a man eventually. I love it. I love that, man. And I just recently was like getting into his music, right? Again, after the whole Adrian Adonis episode, maybe when I listened to Adrian Street, and I started getting through the album, and then this happens, and so far I'm loving it again. Of course, I'm always an ally here on my channel, and Adrian Street, where I gather, wasn't malicious when he did it. Like Goldust at first, like I said, he fed on fears. Not so much Adrian Street, like he, no. And he wasn't really making fun of anyone, like kind of sort of Adrian Adonis was, but that was, again, not entirely on him. So yeah, we just started doing this, and it worked. The 70s, 80s, beyond. And he came back last year, as recently as last year on WTV. Blew mine and every other fan's mind, the reaction he got. Because for a brief moment, wrestling was fucking legit again, man. Him and his beautiful wife and valet, they came back very briefly on an NXT show. It was awesome. He wasn't wearing any of this, but it was awesome. I feel like I'm only just scratching the surface with Adrian Street. Like, again, he was active before I was a fan, before I was born. I feel like almost the 80s, like that's where I started. Like when I got back into wrestling, that's where I started. That's pretty much where I'm at with him. Like I couldn't tell you about him in the 90s, or like his wife proposed to him at a wrestling show a few years ago. That was awesome. But like, I couldn't tell you anything else than that. Like he was still doing interviews and everything. Like I said, I would just listen to one. And he did one about Adrian Adonis. They asked about Adrian Adonis because I thought they were tag team partners. They were so damn similar. No, apparently stole the gimmick, but again, that's in giant air quote. Yeah, but yeah. And Adrian Adonis crossed that line that Adrian Street never would, and said he was gay. And he came out and the whole thing. And I can do it no justice. Just go find it. The way Adrian Street laid that out and said, okay, yeah, people would talk for a couple of minutes, but then what? And he had a point. Whereas right now in 2023, I'm still talking about Adrian Street, and whether like his sexuality, which obviously he was straight, but yeah. Okay. That's all I have to say about Adrian Street. Unfortunately, like I want to say more. Also, I found out he's a Nature Boy, original Nature. He's one of the original Nature Boys. I didn't know that. I found out when I was reading up. And he also had kind of a tough gimmick before he was Adrian Street. Hell's Angel #1. Like, again, him and Adrian Adonis, they were legit. Like, they dress like this, they act like this, but you did not want to fight them. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Adrian Street. Now on to Pee Wee Herman. Okay, so Pee Wee Herman hosted the Pee Wee Herman Show, most notably. Spawned a bunch of movies. But the show itself, this character was spawned from a play from the early 80s. And it was way different than the Pee Wee we have now. Well, kind of, sort of. It made fun of children's television. Okay? Basically, it was if Conker's Bad Fur Day was a play. It featured some Game of Thrones sort of stuff, relationships. You understand what I mean? Like, yeah, there was profanity, cuss, all that. It was crazy, and it's on YouTube. You can still find it. He started out making fun of what he would eventually become. I find that hilarious. Of course, I used to watch Pee Wee's Playhouse when I was younger. And then again, when I was older, when they started airing it on Adult Swim, that was a weird choice, which I was watching that, so I'm like, oh, yeah. And of course, this is crack. I could never do Pee Wee's voice with the whole "this is crack" commercial. Good message, great message. Don't do crack. But it's so the way he delivers it. It's not supposed to be funny, but it is. And the whole thing, he was arrested quite a while ago. Just has a massive collection of erotica, and he was in the theater pleasuring himself, whatever. And then he came back years later after doing other stuff. It was under Everybody Loves Raymond. And it took me a while to connect those dots. That was Pee Wee. He struggled for a while to get work after that. After Pee Wee and after the whole pleasuring himself and the erotic, he struggled to get work for a while. And it took me a while to connect the dot. Paul Rubens is Pee Wee? Huh. And look at him the same on Raymond again. Well, yeah. And then he would eventually bring back Pee Wee for a whole new generation, and he looked the exact same, which is rather interesting because we lost him because he was battling apparently cancer, and I've seen that battle up close and personal. I don't know how he remained to look the exact same throughout it. Like, I know people still having that battle right now, only just now getting like their hair's growing out and the color, like how he managed to look like that the whole time was like, I don't know. Did he hit it? Like, I don't know how he was able to hide that, but okay, that's his business. But yeah, and he came back as Pee Wee, did a whole new movie. Oh, interestingly enough, the other day, an interview with E.G. Daily popped up in my recommended, and E.G. Daily is the voice of my childhood. Tommy Pickles, the original Buttercup and Powerpuff Girls, a bunch of other voices. And she's in Rob Zombie's 31 as a clown. It's interesting. But also, and see, that's 2 songs with Greta. She was on The Voice. I was like, they can have pros because she has music out there. She did 2 songs with Greta Faro 3, 2 of my favorite songs. But she recorded back in the 80s. By the time she was on Pee Wee. Okay, like she was Dottie in the movie, right? Poor Dottie, like he treated her terribly. Yeah, so how crazy is that? Like, I get an interview from her, pop up, recommended to one day, the next day Pee Wee's gone. Of course, from Pee Wee we got Lawrence Fishburne and everything, who was ready to come back when Pee Wee came back. He was ready. But instead they brought in Phil Lamar, who was awesome. But it was interesting. And like I said, there was overlap between Pee Wee Herman and the wrestling business because he's one of the few highlights of WWE's ill-fated, much-hated guest host years. It's literally him, Bob Barker. It's literally that's it. The only ones that are actually good, entertaining. And who knew? I know you are, but what am I? But worked so well in front of a wrestling crowd that wanted to see wrestling. We just kept saying, I know you are, but what am I? It turned out he has good mic skills. And did something with The Rock and The Big Show. I mean, Paul White. Yeah. So that, sort of to find out about both these people. Very closely accessed within minutes of each other. It was crazy. We've lost so many wrestling legends this year. I didn't even cover them all. Like, Superstar Billy Graham. I didn't cover him. We lost Iron Sheik. I did the video. We lost, just like, Mantar just last week. I talked about him on my channel before. I was going to do a video, but there's nothing really left to say. It's him in a bad gimmick. He did what he could. And they got him where he is now. He still had work. So, and we lost Draws like the week before that or so. Darren Draws, yeah. It's crazy. This is crazy. Lodi had a heart attack after a match. Like, what's happening to these wrestlers, man? Lottie, I can't remember. He's fine now. He was actually able to explain the whole thing in the interview. But yeah, still, we're losing legends. Legends are having health problems. I don't know what's happening, man. It's crazy. And yes, Adrian Street was in his 80s and he had a bunch of health problems. I get that. And so did Pee Wee, apparently. This is crazy. He was 70, by the way. 70. I did not know that. When I look back on it, he's been playing Pee Wee since the early 80s. Like, I can see, yeah, okay. Well, rest in peace to these two wildly different characters and the men behind them. I mean, I've learned so much from both of them. And like they will be very missed. Thank you for watching.